Well, what's up, beginner guys? Brian here, the Three Topics Gamer, and I just want to say Happy May the 4th. Today is Star Wars Day, and I really want to try to do something special. I actually spent a couple of days trying to think of what I could do, but I couldn't come up with any ideas. So what I did is I actually looked back in my past number of videos, and I figured, you know something? I did a Star Wars Questionnaire about 5 years ago, and I haven't even watched that video since then, and I felt like, it'd be a nice idea to kind of do an updated version 5 years after that video. Now, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, a number of years back, probably either the first or second year I was doing my Versus series, there were a number of YouTubers who also do Versus series that also did this questionnaire where they would pretty much answer a series of Star Wars related questions. So, YouTubers like Jen Sarai, Evan Novan, Grey Jedi, all those guys, they pretty much did their own version of it. And then years later, when I started doing my own Versus series, I did my own. And I just answered this number of questions. So now that it's been about 5 years, I kind of want to see what my answers would be now that so much time has passed. Now, I'm just stating you, I have not, by the time of this recording, I have not watched my original video. I'm actually going to wait until I upload this video before I go and watch it just to see if my answers have changed. And I would, ask if you guys got time, be sure to do the same for me, because I'll leave a link to that questionnaire video from 5 years ago in the description down below, as well as leave a link for it at the end of this video. So, without wasting any more time, I'm going to jump into my questionnaire and see just how much time has passed, or at least see if my answers have changed since then. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the questions. First question, Sith or Jedi? Knowing me, probably how I thought back then, I think back then I would have said I'm more of a Sith fan, but now that I've had more time to think about it, I think I would prefer to be a Jedi, but I would only want to be a Jedi if I could be part of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order. I think when I look at all of the eras of Jedi that came before the Dark Times, I think my issue with them is that I believe those Jedi are a little bit too narrow-minded. I think the rules are a bit too more restricting, and really, I don't think it's even as progressive as I would prefer to be. I think the one thing I don't like about those Jedi is that they typically don't do anything to progress themselves moving forward. They're always either sitting around training with each other or meditating on the Force instead of actually being active and driving things forward. That is not how it is during Luke Skywalker's period when he was in charge. You very much could have a life apart from your Jedi life, which I really liked. It was much more flexible. I think it was it allowed Jedi at that time to build a much more comfortable environment because of the hard life that they were forced to deal with. And trust me, during that period, Luke's Jedi, Praxium, there was a lot of major threats, but I think he understood the psychology of not just Jedi, but people in general. I mean, you can't just force them and indoctrinate them from a young age and just have the Jedi life be their only life. That's just not healthy. And I understood, and I really, and I respect that Luke, of all people, understood that. And it's funny because Luke, in his development to want to become a Jedi, he did not want to follow the old ways. And that's like the one thing that has made Luke probably one of the greatest Jedi of all time. I liked his way of thinking. So that's probably why nowadays I would only be a Jedi if I could be a Jedi under Luke Skywalker's rules. So I think that's what I would go with. Favorite world? My favorite world that I would love to live on is Kamino. I'm a big fan of rainy days. I like the ocean, and so I think living on a planet with the Kaminoan, I believe that's how you pronounce it, just living on one of their facilities and being able just to watch the rain and the ocean and the waves. I could just sit out in the rain and just watch that for hours and never get bored of it. It just seems like a very, very majestic planet, and just the aesthetics of the buildings themselves is just beautiful to look at. So probably Kamino. Lightsaber type, color, and combat style. My lightsaber type would be a little bit interesting because as far as I can recall, I haven't seen any other character do this with their lightsaber. But ostensibly, since I'm a big major fan of Exar Kun, so what I would have is a one-handed hilted double-bladed lightsaber. The problem is that the main lightsaber would its blade length would be normal size. However, the bottom blade would be a much shorter Shoto size blade. And the thing that I would do with my lightsaber is I would actually cover up the emitter with like some sort of cap or something that the blade could easily punch through when I need it to be. But I think that if people looked at my lightsaber, it would look like it only had one emitter. So I'm big on deception. So I would not bust out the small Shoto blade until I absolutely need it, and I would use it to catch people off guard. So as far as I can concern, I don't know any duelist that's ever actually done that with their lightsaber. The color it would be is undoubtedly purple, because purple is a mixture of blue and red, so both sides of the force, light and darkness. So I think purple is the absolute perfect color. And my combat style, my main combat style would undoubtedly be Form 6 9-man, but I would make sure to back it up with extreme training in Forms 2 Makashi, Form 3 Surisu, and Form 4 Otaru. I would not dabble in Form 1 or 5 or 7. I just don't think I need to go down those paths, because I think with Nyman's flexibility of incorporating elements from Forms 1 to 6, I think having a strong foundation in Forms at least 2, 3, and 4 would definitely give me the flexibility I need, that I would pretty much have an answer for just about any type of scenario that I would find myself getting into. Favorite species. I know this is stereotypical, but human. I mean, it's just easier. I'm a human, so I would probably stick with humans. But if I actually had to pick a non-human species, I'd probably go with Wookiees. The thing I like about Wookiees is their culture. I think Kashyyyk is a beautiful planet. I absolutely love Chewbacca as a character, but what I do love the most about Wookiees is their loyalty. I mean, if I happen to just be in a situation to save any Wookiee's life and they make that life vow, Wookiees are extremely loyal. They're fierce combatants, and I'm 5'8", so I think having a giant 7-foot tall Wookiee, to travel around with would just be a fun. I think that would just be a fun experience. I think that'd be one heck of a sight to see. Next question is, who would my Jedi Master be? My Jedi Master undoubtedly would be Kyle Katarn, simply because I like his backstory in terms of he did not enter the Jedi Order at a young age. He definitely took part and joined Luke's Jedi Order. And I absolutely love that when he becomes a battle master, how he views the usage of the Force, and he is all about learning as many different powers as possible and using them as tools. There's definitely a number of powers that you would look at him and say that's definitely something like a Darksider could use, but he doesn't view the Force in those ways. He is the type of person who wants to have as many weapons and as many tools at his disposal, and it's not so much the power itself, but it's how you use it. So he would have no issue with using something like Force Lightning, which, for the longest time has been viewed as a dark side ability, but he only uses it when he absolutely has to, or uses it as more of a tool, and therefore I think I absolutely respect his view to the Force in that sense. So that's probably the main reason I would go with him. Number 7, who would my Sith Master be? Having not watched a number of questionnaires over the years in quite a while, I'm not sure how many people would probably say this answer, but I would absolutely go with Darth Plagueis. The reason I would go with Darth Plagueis is because outside of him, none of them are philosophers or scientists. And I think the biggest issue that Plagueis had with someone like Sidious is that Sidious was very much in the same Sith mentality of always wanting to take the top job. Always wanting to be the most powerful Sith in the galaxy. Plagueis, I think that's really what worked against him in the end, is that he really thought that Palpatine would be more his partner than just someone who wants to overthrow him. I'm not the kind of person who wants to take a leadership or top role, so as long as Plagueis did not actually go out of his way to try to betray me or take me out. If he really wanted an equal partnership and we could work together in order to establish how we would want to run the galaxy, or determine the path of how we would want things to go, I have no problem with enjoying an entire lifetime of working side by side with a philosopher like that. I could learn a lot of things, and just how much we could develop our powers is just unquestionable. I mean, just it would be a great life, even as a Sith, I would say. What would my Sith name be? My Sith name would undoubtedly be Darth Radek. And the reason it would be Darth Radek is because I'm a big fan of Killzone, a big fan of that franchise, and specifically I'm a big fan of General Radek from Killzone 2. I love how he was just a strategic thinker. He wasn't hard. He didn't have any problem making difficult decisions. He was very much a doer, and he was the type of person who liked to get things done and had no problems getting his hands dirty. And there really isn't any character like that. And if you actually just look at the overall image of a Helghast in general, I just think that look would just go absolutely wonderful with a red-bladed lightsaber. So that's probably why I would go with Darth Radek. Next question, what is my favorite Star Wars movie? Revenge of the Sith, hands down. I have very few flaws with this film, and my enjoyment of the film has really only increased with me having had a lot of time to go over the novel, and then recently with the final season of the Clone Wars actually going into Revenge of the Sith has only made things even better. So kind of seeing how things were happening behind the scenes as things were developing, it just increases my enjoyment of the film even more. That is a top 10 favorite film of all time. That is probably easily a top 5 most watched film of all time. And just every time I enjoy it, I seem to find something new about it. And my enjoyment of it has never, ever changed since then. If there was any one Star Wars movie that I could go back and rewatch in theaters, it would be that one. What is my least favorite Star Wars film? Well, I absolutely despise Disney's sequel trilogy. But if there was one specific film I would like to erase from existence, it's Solo. This one, it was just completely unnecessary and unasked for. I mean, if you were going to do a film focused around one character, I would not have picked Han Solo. I mean, we wanted either a Boba Fett film or an Obi-Wan Kenobi film, but not a Han Solo film. And I'm not even that much of a fan of Han Solo to even care about his backstory at that point. So, and he's the type of character that the less I know about this character, the better. Next, if I could write my own Star Wars novel, what would it be about? If I could write my own novel, it would be a what-if scenario of if Qui-Gon had survived the Duel of Fates. It's widely considered by a lot of people that despite Obi-Wan Kenobi doing his best to train Anakin, he probably was not the right person to do it just because of his own mindset of how he thought his training of Anakin should go, because ostensibly what happened it's the equivalent of you have a father and a son and a little brother, and the father dies and the big brother has to try to raise the little brother like the father would, but just does not have the experience for that. So while Obi-Wan did his best, I just don't think he would have done as good of a job with raising or training Anakin as I believe Qui-Gon would do. So pretty much my novel would pretty much run from the ending of Phantom Menace really leading up all the way to Revenge of the Sith. I think that entire time period would be very, very different if Anakin had been trained by Qui-Gon. Just so many things would be different. Which film has my favorite soundtrack? Revenge of the Sith, unquestionably. That's there are a number of iconic tracks in all the other Star Wars films, and there's maybe one or two from all the other ones, but I think that as an overall, the most memorable tracks for me have always come from Revenge of the Sith, undoubtedly. Do I collect figures? I collect a lot of things, but I do not necessarily collect figures. I think the only Star Wars figure or toy I own is the Outlander, and that's about it. I mean, I've got like a few lightsabers, and I'm planning on picking up a few more in different colors. But in terms of actual figures, no, I do not collect figures. In my opinion, what is the best aspect of the EU? Pretty much details. I absolutely love that a franchise can actually go out of its way and just fill in the gaps for things that most people don't know about. I mean, everyone knows that the movies are the driving force for information in the franchise, but I really like it when stories, either in novels or in comics or in video games, are actually able to expand on information that was only touched upon in the films. And that's really kind of the main reason why I've actually enjoyed the prequel era so much. Even though you don't see it on screen, the fact that I have all this information and know what was going on in different time periods actually enhances my enjoyment of the films itself, and that's something you can only get if you are a big fan of the EU. Number 15, what is the worst aspect of the EU? Undoubtedly, it's too many people working on too many different parts of one era. This is the quintessential problem for why I think the sequel trilogy failed as a whole in terms of its storytelling. Is you simply had there was no clear structure and there was no clear direction on what they wanted to do. You had one director make his own first film, and then you basically had another director pretty much do whatever the heck he wanted, and then you had the first director have to come back and pretty much retcon most of the things that the second director did because that was not the direction he wanted to go. And this happens in the books a lot, how certain events are described different ways, and so there's no continuity, and so things get really, really messy, and so there's no clear direction as for how events played out. I mean, even with the Clone Wars, I mean, they had to basically make a lot of stuff non-canon, because if you actually look at the original story of how the Clone Wars played out, it is very, very different to how things played out in the actual show itself. But I'm kind of okay with that because they actually took the time to actually develop that story as opposed to the first draft of the Clone Wars, which it was pretty vague. So that's probably the worst aspect of the EU. And the last question of the episode comes from what does Star Wars mean to me? I think Star Wars means to me as a filter to kind of give us stories that kind of reflect how things are in the real world. I really like it how when you can take something that actually happens in the real world, incorporate it into fiction, and therefore it makes it easier to kind of understand just the seriousness of the situation. A lot of us never actually see how bad a situation actually gets unless it affects us directly. But I think that through Star Wars, it has allowed me to kind of understand how certain historical events and just the seriousness that they were. And I can't think of any other franchise that has handled that better than Star Wars. So I think that is the main reason why Star Wars means so much to me and probably will always mean so much to me till, the end of my life. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, I think that'll do it for my updated Star Wars questionnaire. Hope, I'll be sure to share your thoughts on what you think of my answers. And if you actually feel like going into detail, please be sure to make an extended comment response in the comments down below, perhaps answering these questions yourself. Or heck, if you have a YouTube channel, be sure if you want, you can do your own questionnaire. And if you want, you can send me a link to your video and I'll be more than happy to check it out. So, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you could, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and press the subscribe button if you happen to enjoy my content. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and may the Force be with you.